What's going on, friends and family? My name is Skylent, and today I'm going to tell you why classes are not as good as characters, why characters are objectively better than classes. Don't worry, guys. Please watch the video before you comment. I had to remove some comments before because obviously some people didn't watch the video. Anyways, please watch the video. This is going to be a shorter editorial here, but remember, this is like, I mean, yeah, it's a rant. It's me talking at your faces, but it's a conversation, and I want to say thank you so much for actually participating in the conversation. Those of you that actually watched the video and telling me your thoughts and your opinions with, you know, if you liked classes versus characters. I will say that overwhelmingly, it seems you guys prefer classes. Okay, and that kind of makes sense. A lot of people that follow me, it's because I follow a lot of MMOs, so maybe that makes sense. Yeah, but anyways, so this is me just gonna be kind of telling you guys, there is one thing that I kind of omitted in that last video, and because the last video was just opinion, it was just kind of me just saying, you know, how I feel, you know, my opinions. There wasn't really any objective truth to any of it. You know, we all have different tastes, you know, things like that. I tried to explain my point of view. Some of you guys got that, some of you didn't. And anyways, so this is going to be a follow-up, and this is going to be the one objective truth that I think is probably the only objective truth to this argument. And I'm not saying that classes are completely worse in every situation to characters. All I'm saying is that here is the one thing that characters can do better, okay? And this is the reason why most competitive games have this kind of system versus a class system, right? Now, there is a gameplay to be had with classes, I think so, especially in massive, multiplayer games, absolutely. But when it comes to arenas, when it comes to competition, true competitive / esport gameplay, you need this one thing. You need absolute clarity. You need clarity. You need, you need to, well, I mean, for instance, you need to be able to see clearly where, you know, attacks, the damage radiuses, damage numbers, always helpful, you know, stuff like that. As clear as possible that you can make a game as obvious, as apparent, as translucent, as transparent, as, you know, clear as you can possibly make the gameplay, then you're going to have a more competitive game. I think in a lot of ways, you know, with the frame data, in a lot of older fighting games, it was really awkward. In a lot of older competitive games, they weren't quite as clear, so it kind of took them a little bit to take off. And that's why kind of these newer games, these modern games, are more rapidly developing their esports scene, because they are immediately more transparent, they are more clear, it's more obvious how things work, what happens, and, you know, what have you. So here's where characters actually come into play. So whenever you are fighting somebody, and this is a problem, this is a big problem that I had playing Guild Wars 2, actually. So we'll actually use Guild Wars 2 as a big example in contention to Overwatch. So when you're playing Overwatch, it's very important to be able to see exactly, like, you know, there's an enemy in front of you, you need to be able to see what that character is. Knowing what that character is, now you know all, you know, the potential of that character and what they could do. And then from there, you know, the spectators can obviously, you know, being a spectator, incredibly important, you know, to be able to see everything clearly. But I'm saying from a mechanical game, you know, gameplay, you know, standpoint here, you need to be able to see and know, like, everything that's happening. Otherwise, you're gonna get situations like Guild Wars 2, where you might run up against, let's say I'm a warrior, which I played a lot of warrior in PvP, and I would see maybe like a mesmer, and I wouldn't know what kind of mesmer he was. I mean, of course, vice versa, he wouldn't know what kind of warrior I was. I could have been a one-shot build, you know, with the bull rush and then come into 100 blades. Could have one-shot him, potentially, or maybe I'm more of a tank kind of build, and maybe he just can't quite see immediately. You don't know that. You have no way of knowing what 5 utility abilities are being used, or whatever. It's like 3 utility abilities, an elite skill, which is like an ultimate, and then you have a heal skill, whatever. And you can't see, sometimes you can't even really clearly see one of their weapons, but you can't see their secondary weapon either. So there's a whole lot of ambiguity going on whenever you first encounter somebody. Yeah, maybe halfway through a fight, you might be able to realize, you know, their patterns and everything. And like I said earlier, there is sort of this, you know, gameplay, this sort of like mind fuckery that you can do, you know, with certain builds, in certain situations, in certain games. I think Albion Online is going to be an exciting game to, you know, do some really surprising things. And, you know, a lot of the game is about ganking and jumping on people, and it's really more of a war of attrition when it comes to guild warfare. It's not really supposed to be fair 1v1 arenas, and I mean, even though that is being implemented into the game, apparently. It's not really about that though. So, but when it comes to a game like Guild Wars 2, which actually had an esport focus, and it still continues to have an arena scene, though dwindling and, you know, not very exciting in my opinion as a spectator or as a player. And this is a big problem, is because objectively, because they use classes with such customization, you cannot properly or appropriately really predict everything. Now, maybe this is mostly going to come down to me playing casually, even in, you know, the ranking system there, but it really shouldn't be like a meta thing, like, oh, I know what kind of warrior he's going to be because that's just meta, because every once in a while then, even in competitive, you're going to get some huge cheese, which is not actually very fun. Yeah, cheese can be cool when it's earned, but whenever you have like just this one build that works and everybody expects you to play it, and then you kind of just change it a little bit, and then do something, you know, totally different, and like, you know, use just one ability like Bull Rush, which is such a cheesy move, and maybe say in competitive nobody used it for like a year, and then all of a sudden you bring it out. That can be kind of fun and cool sometimes in certain MOBAs when you bring out a character that's rarely used. However, that's like, you can see that before the match starts. You can see that, okay, well, he's using Twitch Jungle. That's cheesy. However, we can see that before the game starts, so maybe we can kind of prepare for that. Still, the player can, you know, do some cheesy things. However, there's preparation for it. It's not total cheese out of nowhere, Bull Rush, and then just CC you down entirely and constantly right outside the capture point, you know, in Guild Wars 2, where then they take the point. I don't know. That's a pretty kind of extreme example that probably isn't even really accurate. But anyways, that's just kind of what I'm talking about. There's a lot of times where there are certain abilities, and mainly it's warrior. I think a lot of new players really hate warriors with Bull Rush. But there's just a lot of MMO games that do offer customization with classes. That's cool. I think they don't really do it that great. But, you know, even if you consider like best case scenario for the class system, in the end, objectively, characters are always going to have that set sort of, you know, they're going to have their set abilities, and in a way, you know, that is kind of limiting, but because it is limited, you kind of can, you know, assume what certain characters are, you know, capable of doing, what they potentially can do, and you know, it's just a lot easier for spectators to watch. It's a lot easier for players to actually have a competitive environment because of that, and in the end, that's just like, that's it. That's pretty much the one objective truth for characters versus classes, but that's kind of an obvious and a given. And at the same time, if you're going to consider it in an MMO space, which is where I think classes really shine, and potentially in games like Battlefield. I think Battlefield could do their classes a little bit better, but so far, you know, Battlefield's kind of like that massive, you know, multiplayer. It's not really arena-based, so you can still have a lot of no fucks given, a lot of chaos, and just go ham and be crazy, be wild, you know, do some really weird niche things, and it kind of works out. I think in those environments, such as open world PvP, you know, such as Albion Online, Black Desert, even, I think they could have more uniquity between their classes, but still, the customization's there, and you can do some cool stuff. So I think in those kind of games, that's where classes really should be shining. So I think that's why Albion Online is one of those games that has me really, really excited. And why Guild Wars 2 kind of failed in my opinion. It's like, yeah, they gave us some customization, not as much as Guild Wars 1. But when it comes to like competitive PvP, they were trying to be kind of like this, I don't know, man. They were kind of trying to be like For Honor in a way. I mean, obviously For Honor came out much, much later, but you know what I'm saying? It's like in that genre of like Battleground, and like, it's not quite MOBA-ish, but you know, they try to be a competitive instance-based MMO, if that makes sense. There is a whole genre of games that actually emulate that style. I'm going to do a top 10 on that, by the way, but most of them overwhelmingly fail. However, Guild Wars 2, I think, is a cool game, and I do play it for its PvP, actually. But the inconsistencies with a lot of builds, you know, the meta, how it can change and shift, and there's just too much guesstimation. There's too much guessing, there's too much cheese, and it's not competitive enough in terms of, like, basically just, it's not fair enough. It's not fair enough. It's not clean. It's not as, I guess, transparent as I'd want it to be, obviously, in those arena instances. Now, if you can think of an arena game that actually has proper classes with a tremendous amount of actual customization, please let me know if it actually works. I think Dark Souls is one of those games where it's not competitive for a number of reasons, and its cheese is one of those reasons, but it still has that potential, you know, the customization. There is potential. However, in Dark Souls, it's also much easier to tell, you know, if somebody has a weapon, you can clearly see that very specific weapon, and, you know, they can, you know, from there, they can actually have spells, and they can have additional weapons, but you can see their armor, you can see their weapon, and I think maybe with the next iteration of, you know, a Dark Soulsian type of game, maybe we could get a more fair experience. I think Bloodborne is a lot more fair because you're not really switching weapons a lot. You don't have a bunch of magic. So Bloodborne was actually kind of a step up in terms of competitiveness. So that's basically it. That's all I have to say. Characters essentially are more competitive because they're more fair, they're more transparent because of their limitations. Now, previously I said those limitations can be kind of surpassed because the toolkit that you have, the kit of the character is a tool that a player can use and express themselves. I think there's definitely more to be said there, but maybe that's going to be saved for another time. Essentially, basically, I personally like characters, and as an objective truth, their limitations make the games more competitive, and that's why you see them in competitive games. And the biggest competitive games use characters generally, unless you are a game like Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike is kind of a shining, unique little snowflake, kind of, sort of, but that's not really class-based either, is it? Now, class-based games, though, yes, they have the wildness, they have the customization, and that really, I think, is more befitting of an open-world experience. So with that, I guess I'll end with the question, guys. What games do classes the best? I'm not asking for your favorite class, because personally I think the Druid is amazing in World of Warcraft. You know, Mesmer is really cool in Guild Wars 2. But that's not what I'm asking, because that's really more of their base kits. I'm asking specifically, overarchingly, which games overall actually do the class system really, really good. I think Guild Wars 1 probably might be uncontested. It might be the best. So yeah, Guild Wars 1, and also, guys, what game... Yeah, basically just that. What game does classes the best? And also, maybe more specifically, which games are you looking forward to because of their classes? Because I know we talk about a lot of upcoming games here, especially top 10s and stuff, and a lot of editorials, pre-impressions. So what games are you looking forward to play and try out their class system? Please let me know. I know personally, it's Albion Online. I know it's not quite a class system, but kind of in a way, it's classless. And I think the best class system is actually a classless system. So let me know, guys, your thoughts and opinions on that. And thanks for, tuning in for these discussions. And hopefully you join us in the comments below. Have fun, guys. My name's Skylent, and I'll see you in the next one.